Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice. So, episode 8 of House of the Dragon, The Queen Who Never was absolutely fire. It reminded me so much of the ends of Winds of Winter, like Daenerys sailing for Westeros. They set the stage beautifully for season 3. Like, season 3 is going to open up with a huge battle, probably the biggest sea battle ever filmed, the biggest dragon battle ever filmed. I can imagine it now, and I'm getting so hyped for it. It's going to be nonstop, I think. Like season 3, because so much is to happen. You wanted spectacle, you're going to get it. Some of the people that don't like this episode, I kind of wonder how y'all got through the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like, how did you make it? This isn't a show about battles and fights. This is just a show about people, rich with themes of power corrupts the heart and conflict, nature, nurture, life, death, and rebirth, love, and hate. I thought it was so good. And we're going to break it all the way down, but I want to address something first. This episode leaked and it was everywhere. It was on Twitter, clips of it just posted on the timeline, TikTok, everywhere. If y'all were posting that with no tags or nothing, no warning, no spoiler, y'all butthole is going to itch for a whole week and no scratch will be able to soothe it. Blessed be. So the episode opens up with Tywin Lannister negotiating with the Triarchy in Tyrosh. Aemon Targaryen commanded him to do this in episode 6. The first offer we hear is that the Triarchy wants 100 golden dragons per man. He's like, I can't afford that. But they're like, please, bro, you are a Lannister. We have heard how rich y'all are. Stop playing. The second offer is that the Triarchy be given the stepstones so they can impose a tax on anyone coming through the stepstones. Tywin accepts this offer, but he's afraid that Aemon is going to be pissed about it. And they're like, you can topple him and take the throne for yourself. I kind of like him. He's like, you're thinking small. You need to be thinking big. But they are like, you know what? Not so fast, though. There is one condition. Lohar is the commander, and the sailors won't fight without him. And then we meet Lohar, and Tywin is going to have to prove himself in a mud wrestle. So the next scene is Aemon and Vhagar after burning Sharp Point. Sharp Point is right here. So after Aemon had to bust a U-turn at Dragonstone, he was so furious, full of so much rage that Rhaenyra had Silverwing and Vermithor now that he just willy-nilly burned the first castle he saw on his way back to King's Landing. This is a rage that we have seen in Aemon, this kind of unchecked fury. I think they put a lot of character work into Aemon, and I really like what they're doing with him. And you see how, like, claiming Vhagar changed him. Like, in season 1, before claiming Vhagar, he's bullied. He kind of is a sissy, crying to his mother because he got teased. Even at the funeral on Driftmark, he has his moment with Jace where he wants to comfort him because Jace has lost his father. Then after he claims Vhagar, he goes on to assault and belittle Jace, like, yeah, that's why your father's dead. Like, assaults Jace, Baela, Rhaena, Luke. And he ultimately kills Lucerys and Arax over Storm's End. He talks about this as being something he regrets and his temper getting the best of him. These fiery impulses are the burden of every dragon rider, I believe. Some just keep it in check better than the others, and some have these emotional issues that exaggerate these impulses. Like, Vhagar is also like Visenya's dragon. Visenya would have totes burn Sharp Point just because. I know some people were upset that, like, they didn't show Aemon burning it because, one, well, we don't need to see it. We don't know them or care about them, so it's just as impactful. But what's on top of that is Rook's Rest and the Red Sewing probably took up 75% of the budget. Dragons are not cheap, babes. Next is a scene of Aegon and Larys Strong. First, he's asking the Maester for rum, and he tells the Maester he's a good man. What do you think Larys thinks of that foot and that big toe that be propped up there all the time? Also, props to Tom Glencarney. He's killing Aegon the Burnt, Aegon the Broken. It's an A1 performance. He really, hands down, stole it for me. Larys tells Aegon about the 3 new dragon riders and Aemon's fury, and also that Aemon will kill him. Larys wants to take Aegon to Essos, let Rhaenyra and Aemon fight, and bring him back once they kill each other. Larys says it's best to live. Aegon says, is it? And the first thing he says is his dragon is dead. So Aegon thinks that Sunfire is dead, but Sunfire was not dead because Criston Cole says he left back a host to guard the dragon. So Sunfire is not dead. Aegon and Sunfire's relationship is one of the most insightful when it comes to dragon lore. With only seeing Sunfire once on screen, they were able to capture it too. From the chest pump, the gold three-headed dragon sigil is Sunfire. Sunfire being embroidered on Aegon's clothes. Sunfire cradling him on the ground. His fucking cups in the red keep have Sunfire on them. When he speaks of his will to live, he speaks of Sunfire first, and only then of himself being burnt badly, disgusting, and crippled. He even says his nether parts are destroyed. Larys starts throwing out all these possible nicknames for Aegon. Aegon the Peacemaker, the Rebuilder, and Aegon's like, the Realm's Delight. I died. He is so delirious, bro. I laughed so hard at this. The Realm's Delight is what they call Rhaenyra. Like, stop playing. Aegon is just so unserious. We then get a shot of Rhaena tracking Nettles. She comes to a stream and drinks water. Chasing dragons is thirsty work. The next scene is at Dragonstone. Hugh and Olaf are in the chamber of the painted table. They are supposed to be in the yard, training yard, learning the command of their dragons. It looks like Hugh has come to fetch Olaf. Jace overhears them and comes in like, get your feet off my mom's table, bitch. Olaf claps back, but when he learns it's the prince, he chills out and he gives him a hug. Jace is like, WTF. Jace is angry. Jace tells them about Aemon and basically threatens Olaf, which was uncalled for, but I get it. Like, he's angry. Now, the royals, like, they are used to things and people being a certain way, being greeted with hugs, disobedience, not having courtly manners. These are all things that are foreign to the royals. And it's not Olaf's fault that he doesn't know the ways of court. He's just being himself. Hugh is different. Like, his mother was a Targaryen princess, Princess Saera Targaryen, the daughter of a king. So Hugh knows how to play the game. The next scene is of Rhaenyra and Corlys in Driftmark. Rhaenyra is happy for the new riders, but she doesn't know them. Like, she has some reservations. She also asks Corlys about Adam, and Corlys does not confess who he is. Corlys gives Rhaenyra counsel. He advises Rhaenyra to strike quickly. He also advises her not to forget Daemon and Tessarion and Helena and Dreamfire. Rhaenyra is not worried about Dreamfire. Dreamfire is a big dragon, but Helena is not a warrior. She's not going to burn people. Rhaenyra knows her sister. We learned that Corlys has renamed the sea snake, and the ship is now named after Rhaenys, and it's called the Queen Who Never Was. I cried. I think it's romantic. I think it's everything. Everything he does now, he does for Rhaenys. Long live the Queen Who Never Was, and Meleys the Red Queen. Corlys advises Rhaenyra to crush the beast at its head and do it quickly. And then he brings up Daemon, and we cut to Daemon at Harrenhal. The River Lords are all at Harrenhal. Bro tells Daemon that he hopes the dragons like pig because all the sheep were already sold. And of course, our boy prefers bacon and pork chops over mutton. I don't know why Caraxes, like, that just seems so Caraxes. Like, yes, give me pork chops, give me bacon. I love Caraxes. Daemon's army will be ready to march in 2 days. Alfred Broom has finally arrived to Harrenhal. Daemon thinks it's comical that he's there. Look at the difference in how this shit brain talks to Daemon versus how he talks to Rhaenyra. They go, oh, this part right here. They go in the Godswood, and Simon is sitting there ear hustling. I love Simon. He's one of my favorites. But Sir Alfred basically sells Rhaenyra out. And if you listen closely, you can hear someone whisper, traitor. He's like, did you hear something? Daemon tells him, bro, you ain't seen nothing. This place will have you barking at the moon. Daemon says that I never took you for a turncloak. Daemon looks at him long and hard. Sir Simon's sassy ass, with all his drip, is not going for it. Then we're back at King's Landing. Ironrod is telling Aemon about the Red Selin. Aemon basically commands all ships to be inspected, which will halt the fishing boats, leading to people starving more. Aemon does not care, and Ironrod looks appalled. Helena and Alicent are talking, and Helena doesn't understand why the people hate them. Helena says, I was happier before I was queen, and this is definitely a sentiment that Alicent wholeheartedly understands. She asks Helena what she thinks about leaving this place, and in comes Aemon. And Aemon is on a good one. Aemon wants Helena to ride her dragon Dreamfire into battle. Helena wants no parts. Aemon basically says it's a command and grabs Helena. Alicent breaks it up. Firstly, I love this scene. Aemon sees what Rhaenyra did as a sin. He said she defiled their birthright and made commoners into dragon lords. It's a sin that must be punished. Alicent is like, your sister is still the queen. And he says, so are you, but your weakness is the reason we are here. Alicent checks him. Basically, she says it wasn't peril that caused him to burn Sharp Point. It was baseless fury at his own humiliation. She says you burn the small folk when you feel insulted. Which, bro, Alicent is right. The small folk literally smacked her in the face with rotten fish, insulted her and Helena, and cut her. And did she have the Kingsguard cut them to pieces? No, she ordered them to sheathe their swords. Rhaenyra humiliates him, and he burns a whole town just because. Humiliation is actually one of the most detrimental things the human brain can go through, and in some people, it triggers like an outrageous response, like the powerless rage it can evoke, desire to remedy the wrong. Like in Aemon's case, when he was young, humiliation caused him to seek such power. He felt so powerless that he goes to Vhagar and claims her while she's still mourning the death of her previous dragon rider. He goes from powerless to dangerous because humiliation led him to believe there was no other course for him. And committing all the atrocities that he has, he will never be able to recover from this, and he definitely has no choice now but to lean all the way into it, even if that's not who he is. The psychology of Aemon is actually so interesting and it deserves an entire video, but I'm not a psychologist. But Alicent says that Helena is the gentlest of them and the most deserving of their protection. And this scene makes what happens later a lot better. Aemon says our very lives are at stake. Would you not have us prevail? Not like this, Alicent says. It is a conversation that leads her to the Grand Maester's quarters to get passage to Dragonstone. Crispin is sitting there smelling Alicent's cum rag. Gwaine saw Alicent give it to him, to be sure, but Gwaine pulls a sword on him and puts him to the question about his oath and about him banging his sister. Crispin's like, she saved my life twice. She has been the beacon that I follow. Crispin says that all the Kingsguard are thoughts, which is true. A lot of them are. What is duty compared to a woman, a newborn son, all the things Maester Aemon tells Jon? Crispin says he has no philosophy. His philosophy is his sword, and his desire for women has brought him nothing but grief. Yeah, that's because your desire conflicts with your duty. Rook's Rest had an immense effect on Criston Cole. Seeing the dragons dancing is like watching gods fight. It's like watching Ragnarok. He sees no sense in even living at this point. Dying seems like it would be a relief for him. And I think Gwaine kind of agrees with this, which Gwaine was born and raised in Old Town, and Old Town definitely played a part in ending the dragons. And I have a big banger of a video coming up about Old Town, the Starry Sept, and the Citadel, and how they conspired to end dragons. The next scene we have Tywin Lannister in the mud wrestling with his new Tyroshi friend, and he impresses her or him. Then we get a scene at Dragonstone where Jace is sulking and Baela comes in and puts belt to ass. Actually, Baela is so much like Lena in this scene, so much like Rhaenys in this scene. She counsels and comforts Jace and basically tells him to stop hating himself for being a bastard. You are the heir of the rightful queen. Take your place by her side and prove yourself. He's going to be so desperate to prove himself now, and what's coming because of this desperation is going to hurt so bad. Rhaena is sleeping in the elements, freezing, shivering. Then we have Tywin performing for the Triarchy a song called The Captain's Daughter. I think it's hilarious that Shorty cannot get Tywin's name right. She's called him Tywin and Tyrod. It's funny. I like her. But she announces that they will be going to the Gullet tomorrow. tomorrow, and House Valerion is already there, so wow, that's gonna pop off. And she's ready to kill Corlys Valerion, the sea snake. But first, she wants babies by Tylan. She wants him to have sex with all of her wives. I died. I'm not gonna lie. Tylan sent me when he was like, how many? They sent him to Tyros to treat with the pirates. He had to mud wrestle, give away the Stepstones, and make babies with all the wives of Lohar. The Triarchy drives a hard bargain. Then we are at Rhaenyra's dinner table. And it's awkward because Off has no manners. He's like, more wine, more of them little birds. The queen stood up for a toast and he didn't care. He's like, more wine. I like Off, but Rhaenyra toasts to them. She says she is entrusting them with the power that very few have known. She expects them to give her fealty. She says she will make them knights. They all seem pleased. Hugh wants to know what he has to do. Rhaenyra says she hoped Aemon being outmatched would be enough to prevent this war, but it's not. And Corlys is right that they have to strike in 2 days. She wants to go to Old Town and Lannisport and lay waste to their armies and their castles. Baela is not with burning innocent people, and he was like, there's so many. Jace then speaks. He says it's hard, but it can't be helped. They have to break the will of their enemy. They question about Vhagar, and Rhaenyra says she is fearsome, but we have 6 dragons. Off is like, I'll take him on myself. He says him and Silverwing are not afraid of nothing, even if you are, and he looks at Adam. To that, Adam says there will be time to see which one of us is a coward, and I really love that line. I love Adam of Hall. He is the most loyal of the dragon seeds. Rhaenyra is like, look, a knight is going to act like he has some sense at the queen's table, and Off is like, best make me a knight then. And it's awkward. Jace has to check him, and Off is like, y'all are so boring. Like, y'all need to lighten up. A sense of humor would help y'all. Off, I don't know if you noticed, buddy, but they're in the middle of a war, and their whole lives, family, house, legacy is staked on it. But then Simon done slid in Rhaenyra's DMs and told her about her man's extracurricular activities at Harrenhal. I love Simon for this. Truly, I do. Rhaenyra says she won't allow it, and she calls Adam to come with her. And I know Jace has to feel some type of way. Then we are at Harrenhal, and Alice sits beside Daemon on the bed, and she's crying. And we're going to talk about this. But they go to the Godswood, and when they get there, we see this figure by the weirwood with antlers, and this is a green man. The green men are sacred order that were formed to protect the Isle of Faces. The Isle of Faces is the sacred island of weirwoods. This is where the first men met with the children of the forest to form the pact. Alice says when Daemon arrives to Harrenhal, he was a closed fist, wishing to break the world to his will. But he has since learned that this world will not be broken by wills, and she asked him if he wishes to learn what has been given to him. She says all your life you have sought to command your own fate, but today you are ready. She tells him to touch the tree, and he gets the vision. A lot of the backlash about this episode, a lot of it boils down to this vision. Not the vision itself, but what is in this vision. They're mad because that vision confirmed what many were in denial about for 20 years. And that is that Daenerys Targaryen is and has always been Azor Ahai. When the red star bleeds and darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. The red star, the stone dragons, and Daenerys Targaryen. It is confirmed. I'm sorry, Jon Snow. Listen, it doesn't mean Jon Snow isn't important. He most certainly is, but it is Daenerys that wakes dragons from stone. It is Daenerys that goes through Essos, conquering cities, forming the biggest army the continent has seen, and it is Daenerys that brings them to Westeros and brings them to the north to fight the White Walkers. Jon Snow's ties to the North, it's his Stark ancestry that makes his fight so personal for him to the White Walkers. Him not being Azor Ahai doesn't really mean anything. But people will hate this because their headcanon is that he is, even though the books make it clear that it's Dany. But the show just made it irrefutable probably to a lot of people. But let's break it apart. Let's talk about Daemon's character. Media literacy has been a phrase that's been absolutely overused this season by people that don't have media literacy. You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Damon Story this season. I like how it started and how it ended, but the in between had me scratching my head a few times. I will be the first to say that I feel Alicent and Damon, their characters suffered a little bit in season 2. They were built up so well, written so well in season 1, aside from a few things. And season 2 felt like some things were out of place or missing or out of character. But the finale brought their journeys to a head really well. What's hard to grasp is that Fire and Blood says basically one paragraph about what Daemon was doing in the Riverlands while he was in the Riverlands. We know that he won the Riverlands to his side, and we know he subdued House Bracken, but that's really the gist of it from the books. The dance is written in a history book, and it's a couple pages. It's like 20 pages, 30 pages. It's like 100,000 words. It's 100,000 word story that spans 30 years of the prelude, the dance, and the aftermath, where Game of Thrones was adapting a source material that had almost 2 million words that only spanned maybe 3 years. The writers of Hot D have a task on their hands. They had a lot of room to fill, having Daemon face his demons at Harrenhal and to emerge with his army and be emboldened in what he felt for Rhaenyra all these years, and seeing this prophecy and getting our boy back times 10. It's not bad writing in and of itself. Old mom thing, they completely lost me with that because it felt like it served no purpose and it was only there for shock. I was over it. I said as much in my episode 5 breakdown. 6 starts to get better. 7 way better. And we build to this big climax of Daemon and Rhaenyra reconciling and Daemon realizing that there is something bigger, something more important than himself, more important than the crown, more important than anything. I theorized this years ago, solely based off the books. And I theorized this turnabout in Daemon's character came from Nettles. But it looks like Nettles' character has been merged with Rhaena because that ugly brown dragon has to be Sheepsealer. And I believe some of the character work that is done through Nettles for Daemon, Nettles, whom I believe is a woods witch or a child of the forest, I believe that character work was pasted onto Alice, and Alice did it for Daemon, and it was done sooner than it occurs in the books. I hate that they cut Nettles. I hate it. We'll talk about that another day. I will go on the record and say I believe it was a big, very big blunder. It's the thing I hate most about this season is that there is no Nettles, that they merged Nettles with Rhaena. But I'm open to see what they're going to do with Rhaena before I make my final judgment. So Daemon Targaryen touches the weirwood. He sees the future just like Bran Stark does in Game of Thrones. He sees Bloodraven. He sees Bloodraven's birthmark transform to the three-eyed raven. He sees the White Walkers, dead dragons, dead men. He sees himself fall into the God's Eye, alive, by the way. He sees the red comet. He sees Daenerys' dragon eggs. He sees Daenerys birthing dragons on the Dothraki Sea. He sees Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne. And Helena says it's all a story and you're but one part in it. You know your part. If you have been a Sweet Summer child for some time, then you know in October 2021, I wrote a theory that Daemon Targaryen was a Greenseer and the predecessor of Bloodraven. This was before the first season of House of the Dragon, and this was based solely on Fire and Blood, Dunk and Egg, A Song of Ice and Fire, and the themes of the universe. I'm not coming on here to gloat about how I was right about Daemon Greenseer, even though he literally does exactly what Bran Stark does, even though he drank weirwood paste, even though he sees a vision of Bloodraven, he's seeing the future. I'm not here to gloat or be petty. I'm here to say how much sense this makes for his story, how interesting it is, and how Daemon's character has evolved. Everyone's saying that this is bad writing, this vision, and connecting Daemon to Daenerys and the White Walkers and forcing Daemon to bend the knee to Rhaenyra because of some vision he saw, some prophecy. He's not taking his fate in his own hands. This is corny. What are y'all reading? A Song of Ice and Fire is so steeped in prophecy and characters making decisions because of prophecy. The plot is completely driven by this half of the time. Rhaegar Targaryen runs away with the High Lord's daughter and gets a child on her while he is married with 2 other children because he believes he's fulfilling some ancient prophecy. Cersei Lannister can't trust Tyrion a wink because Maggie the Frog told her the Valonqar would kill her, and she's convinced it's Tyrion, so she makes decisions completely out of paranoia brought on by this prophecy. Bran Stark has a coma dream after his fall and awakens naming his wolf Summer. This is where he first meets the Ravens, and Jojen comes all the way to Winterfell motivated by his dreams of seeing Bran as the winged wolf. Melisandre literally does everything that she does because she's motivated by the Azor Ahai prophecy, to the point of convincing Stannis, who is also being pushed by prophecy, to kill his brother, to do awful things in the name of his flaming sword. Daenerys literally dreams of Drogon before she hatches her dragons, and when she does finally hatch them, she follows her dream. She dreamed it. I could go on and on. People were like, the prince that was promised being shoehorned into the House of the Dragon is nonsense. No, it's not. George R.R. Martin hinted at this when Fire and Blood was released. Narratively, it makes sense as to why Torrhen Stark knelt and why House Stark never broke faith with House Targaryen until the Mad King killed Brandon and Rickard. Name a great fantasy series that doesn't use prophecy in some way. I'm not talking about Wattpad fanfics. I'm talking about the juggernauts. My favorite, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, uses prophecy in one of the best ways it's ever been done. Dune, the Dune series, uses prophecy in a very unique way. The Lisan al-Gaib and all the other shit. The Witcher books uses prophecy in the real world. Religions and cultures around the world are built on prophecies and how people perceive them. The idea that these things can fry your psyche, interfere with your decision making, enlighten you, soften you, harden you, change your life pursuits, embolden what you already feel and believe, have been explored since the dawn of fucking time. To say it cheapens the story is absurd. It's absolute horseshit. We are sorry you don't like the magical elements of the fantasy story with dragons and ice zombies. We are sorry you reject the idea that any of this is fascinating. Once the arcs are revealed and all the cards are on the table is set. Next season is going to be one brutal bloodbath after another. And I'll do a separate video on what's to come, but let's keep going. Do y'all need a bathroom break? Because I'm just getting warmed up. The next scene is Helaena and Aemon. Aemon is vulnerable with her, but he pleads for her to help him. Helaena is an empathic bug girl. She is not going to burn people, Aemon. Let it go. She checks him, though, and I gasped. She checks him and tells him she knows he burned Aegon. She tells him Aegon will be king again. He will sit on a wooden throne, and Aemon will be swallowed up in the God's Eye. Aemon says he could have her killed. He's upset, but he doesn't feel the rage that he usually feels because there is no audience. It's just him and Helaena. So his humiliation triggers him. I feel bad for him in a sense, but at the same time, this is the bed that he made, and he's gone too far to turn back now. Everybody has choices, and his choices have put him in the position he's in. And while it may seem that Helaena telling him won't change anything, it is bleak. It's true. He has no choice but to forge forward and completely lean into the person he has become. The next scene is Seasmoke and Syrax arriving at Harrenhal. Caraxes wakes up and is like, Syrax, I know you are not with Seasmoke again. I thought we talked about this. Rhaenyra flies up on Syrax and Simon is there to greet her. She has finally met the king of Westerosi Drip, and he is basically like, let me show you something. Let me show you. She arrives and no one falls in line or pays her any attention. They don't kneel, nothing. But when Daemon comes through, they part like the Red Sea. I love when Syrax perches on top of Harrenhal to see what is going on. Like, what's going on? I'm here, Mom. Daemon comes up, and it's the reunion we've been waiting for. Mom and Dad are back together. Daemon is like, this is my army, and they're all sworn to me. And to this, Rhaenyra says very loudly, and whom are you sworn? First of all, she said it very loudly because she knows Daemon's not going to betray her. Sir Alfred looks nervous, by the way. Daemon speaks to her in Valyrian about the White Walkers and winter and the darkness and doom. She says, you sound like my father. He says, I saw it. Something is coming that we cannot withstand, but somehow we must. He says the realm's only hope is a leader who can unite it, and my brother chose you. Daemon bends the knee. Simon is completely gagged by this. He's absolutely shocked. Rhaenyra grabs his hand and threatens him like, if you leave me again, I'm going to kill you. Daemon then says, for every one of us who falls, 100 of them will there will be no mercy. We fight for our queen. And Harrenhal erupts with cheers, and Sir Alfred skedaddles up out of there. Simon is in the background, slow clapping. You have to rewatch it. He's literally slow clapping. This is the drama that I live for. In Driftmark, House Valerian are getting ready to set sail. Alan is pissed with Corlys. He doesn't want his help or his favor. He tells Corlys, you only care about me because your kids are gone. He tells him of his hardships of his life. Alan is not wrong, y'all. He's not wrong. I don't blame him for being mad. I'd be mad too. Rhaena is running around the Vale still. Could you imagine chasing a dragon, running up and down mountains with no food and water? It's almost unbelievable. Then we have Rhaenyra and Mysaria on Dragonstone. Mysaria tells Rhaenyra that the gods favor her. They put the means of victory in her hands. Rhaenyra is still hesitant. She doesn't want to kill thousands of people. Mysaria tells her to be strong. She must prevail. And Rhaenyra says, who pays the price? And when Mysaria looks at the dragons and we hear the dragons roar, it's foreshadowing. It's the dragons pay the price. That's who. And it's the saddest thing. This is the saddest story. I cried. I cried on that scene. Then we get Rhaenyra being woke up from bed, and she has a visitor, and it's Alicent. I love this scene. Alicent is dressed in blue as she did when she was younger. She's biting her nails. She's that little girl again, that little motherless girl. Alicent's motivations are clearly to protect Helena. Alicent is no fool. She knows what's coming. Aemon will rain death and ruin and burn the small folk. Aegon is broken. Alicent sees this war as already lost. And at least she feels she can protect Helena and Jaehaera, those deserving most of her protection, as she wishes that someone would have protected her from the decisions the men of her life had made. She offers to give King's Landing to Rhaenyra and says Aegon will bend the knee. Rhaenyra is like, that's not how this works. And it's true. And I said this is one of the reasons the Greens should have always been concerned when it came to the succession. Otto warned Alicent about this, and Otto wasn't wrong. Rhaenyra tells Alicent to choose, basically, between her and Aegon. And Alicent chooses Rhaenyra. When Rhaenyra said a son for a son, I was like, oh my God. But Alicent choosing Rhaenyra is the right choice for what Alicent hopes to accomplish. Yes, she's turning on her son. She's in an impossible situation. If she remains loyal to her son, they have 6 dragons. They will take the city away. And what of Helena then? And what of Jaehaera? She's protecting the women that she brought into this world. Because who will? Who will? She has to. Aemon just violently tried to force Helena into dragon battle. Jaehaerys was killed in his bed, Jaehaerys' brother. Aegon is broken, burnt, and delirious. But we see that this plot, as good as it is for the character of Alicent, the mother, the mother that wants to protect her daughter and her granddaughter, we see it's going to backfire because Larys knows what she was up to, and Larys has snuck Aegon out of the city. And when Rhaenyra does arrive, Rhaenyra will think it was all a trick, and she got Aegon away. She stole away Aegon to safety. Plus, a lot is going to happen before she arrives that will make her a very different person. Olivia Cooke in this scene was amazing. Emma Darcy and Olivia Cooke have some of the best scenes together, the best chemistry. Then we get a montage of Alicent leaving, the Dragon Seas getting ready for war, getting their armor on, Rhaena running the mountains, the High Towers marching with Tessarion, the Blue Queen, Daeron and his dragon, the Greybeards are marching, they have crossed the Twins, the House Stark banners marching south is a sight to see. The Lannister armies marching. It actually looks like the Lannister armies are close to Harrenhal. You can see Harrenhal in the distance, but Daemon plans to march on King's Landing before they can catch him. Daemon is at Harrenhal admiring his army. He's in full armor. The Triarchy is on its way across the narrow sea. Alan and Corlys are about to get on the Queen Who Never Was and join the blockade. Rhaena finally catches up to the dragon, and it is Sheep Stealer, the ugly brown dragon. At least It looks like it. Otto, Otto, is that you? Come home, Otto. We need you. Who has Otto? It's probably Laris that did something with Otto, captured him, or maybe it's the two Allens, because House Beesbury definitely took up arms for Rhaenyra once they killed Lyman Beesbury. And the montage ends with Laris taking Aegon, Alicent on a cliff, and Rhaenyra staring at Merax's skull, all while they are playing some very Dune-ish music. Lisan al-Gaib. I love that they are making Rhaenyra this fanatic of dragons, the gods, the sacred beings. It reminds me of how the Fremen worshipped the sandworms in Dune. The season has been such a ride. I loved it. Season 3 is going to be absolutely insane. It's going to pop off right at the start of it. Also, filming started sooner than we thought, so we should be getting the next season sooner than originally estimated. Until then, I will have all kinds of juice for you. I will be covering the Dune Prophecy on HBO Max when it airs in November, and I'll be covering Dunk and Egg when it airs, and I have tons of the House of the Dragon and Westeros and A Song of Ice and Fire juice to make, and anything else I want to make. I'm going to be making juice for you guys. You will not go thirsty. But I want to thank you guys. I enjoyed watching this season with you guys, and I appreciate all of your support. As always, thanks for watching. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.